In the busy streets of Ikeja, Lagos, Glory Heights Secondary School stood as a pillar of excellence and a role model for other secondary schools in the state. Known as the biggest government-owned school in the local government area, it was an institution of top-class academic activity and a source of pride for the community. Parents dreamed of enrolling their children there, and every child also wanted to wear the famous green and white uniforms with pride. The school wasn't just a center for learning, it was a reflection of the community's values and ambitions. It boasted the best WAC results in the state for 3 consecutive years and was known for its numerous achievements in debate, drama, and inter-house sports. Being a government-owned institution, every 4 years, Glory Heights Secondary School always had a change in administration, new HODs, principals, and even new teachers. During one of these transitions, Mr. Michael Okonkwo arrived. Freshly transferred from the Ministry of Education, his appointment was seen as a strategic move to sustain the school's excellence. Michael was a man who was always admired by many. Standing at 6 feet tall, with light skin and a huge body physique, he was the kind of man who commanded attention wherever he went. His deep voice carried authority, and his sharp, tailored suits added to his scent of attraction. At just 36 years old, Michael had a magnetic charm that left a lasting impression. Women admired him, men respected him. Michael was married to Ngozi, a beautiful, hard-working woman who managed her growing catering business. Together they had 2 children, Amaraki, a sharp and bright 8-year-old, and Chukwudi, a lively 5-year-old who was his dad's favorite. Despite his attractive personality, Michael harbored ambitions that were beyond his family life. He was ambitious and always wanted to leave a legacy wherever he worked. His transfer to Glory Heights was not just a job, it was an opportunity to cement his reputation as one of the best administrators in Lagos. Michael's first week as principal was nothing short of a huge performance. He quickly identified key areas for improvement, from outdated textbooks to overcrowded classrooms. He called for an emergency staff meeting where he laid out his vision for the school. "We are not just here to teach," he said, speaking confidently. "We are here to build the future of this nation. Every student who walks through this school gate should leave with an improved mind to compete on a global stage." His words electrified the room. Teachers who had grown nonchalant with their duties under the previous principal found themselves re-energized. Parents began to notice changes almost immediately: cleaner classrooms, a more organized administrative system, and a renewed sense of discipline among the students. Just as Michael was settling into his new role as principal, a new teacher joined the staff. Miss Felicia Johnson, a fresh graduate in her early 20s, was assigned to teach English language. Felicia was stunning, dark-skinned, with her beautiful body figure that turned the heads of men. Her natural beauty was matched by a soft smile and a voice that made even the most boring conversations seem interesting. Felicia was also ambitious. Having graduated with honors from the University of Lagos, she saw teaching at Glory Heights as a stepping stone in her career. She was eager to make an impression, and her enthusiasm quickly drew her close to the students. They loved her engaging teaching style and the way she treated them with respect. For Michael, however, Felicia's arrival stirred something deeper. At first it was little, but over time his admiration for her grew. He found himself looking forward to any interaction with her, no matter how brief. Michael began to take an unusual interest in Felicia's work. He complimented her lesson plans, offered unwanted advice, and found excuses to visit her classroom. While these actions seemed innocent to others, Felicia couldn't ignore the sexy stares or the way Michael's tone softened when he spoke to her. One afternoon, Michael called Felicia to his office under the pretense of discussing her students' performance. As she walked in, he stood up from his chair. His warm smile made her feel comfortable. "Miss Johnson, I must say, the students speak very highly of you," he began, gesturing for her to sit. "You're doing an excellent job." "Thank you, sir," Felicia replied, her voice steady but cautious. Michael leaned forward slightly, his eyes locking onto hers. "You're a breath of fresh air here. It's rare to find someone so passionate about their work." Felicia smiled politely, unsure of how to respond. The compliment felt genuine, but the way he said it made her feel something wasn't right. Over the next few weeks, Michael's behavior became increasingly bold. He would accidentally brush against her in the hallway or stay too long after meetings. Felicia tried to dismiss these moments as harmless, but deep down, she knew better. Unknown to Felicia, Michael's fascination with her was becoming an obsession. He justified his actions by convincing himself that she was different from the other women in his life, that she understood him in a way no one else could. Felicia, on the other hand, was confused. She admired Michael's intelligence and leadership, but was deeply uncomfortable with his advances. She had a boyfriend, David, a young architect who treated her like a queen. Yet there was something about Michael's confidence and charm that was hard to ignore. As the school term progressed, the lines between professionalism and personal interest started to fade. What began as simple connection was now a ticking time bomb, threatening to disrupt the harmony Michael had worked so hard to create at Glory Heights. Felicia sat at her desk one afternoon, staring at the stack of exercise books she was meant to grade. Her mind, however, was elsewhere. Over the past few weeks, Mr. Michael Okonkwo's advances had become impossible to ignore. At first, she thought she could manage it, but Michael had a way of breaking down her defenses. Every glance, every compliment, every soft touch was recorded in her mind longer than it should have. She knew it was wrong. She had David, her boyfriend of 3 years, who had been nothing but loving and supportive. Yet, there was something about Michael's confidence, his charm, that made her feel special in a way she couldn't explain. "Miss Johnson," his deep voice ranged from her thoughts. She looked up to see Michael standing in the doorway of her classroom, his eyes fixed on her. "Good afternoon, sir," she replied, quickly standing up. Michael smiled, stepping closer. "I just wanted to check on you. You've been doing an incredible job with the students. I hope you know how much you're appreciated here." Felicia nodded, her heart pounding. She tried to maintain her composure, but the intensity of his gaze was overwhelming. "Thank you, sir," she said softly. Michael hesitated for a moment before speaking again. "You're special, Felicia. I hope you know that." For a moment, she felt herself drawn to him, the way his words seemed to reach a part of her she didn't even know existed. But as quickly as the moment came, she snapped herself back to reality. "I should get back to grading these papers," she said, her voice shaking slightly. Michael nodded, though the smile never left his face. "Of course. Let me know if you ever need anything." As he left the room, Felicia exhaled deeply. She knew she was walking on dangerous ground. Despite her initial resistance, Felicia found herself increasingly drawn to Michael. It wasn't just his looks or charm, it was the way he made her feel seen, admired, and understood. He had a way of making her forget the pressures of her job, her relationship, and even her morals. One evening, after a particularly long staff meeting, Michael asked Felicia to stay back to discuss some important updates regarding her department. By the time the others had left, it was just the two of them in the conference room. "Felicia," he said, his tone soft and inviting, "you know I care about you, right?" She looked at him, unsure of what to say. Before she could respond, he stepped closer, his hand gently brushing against hers. "I can't stop thinking about you," he continued. "You're the most incredible woman I've ever met." Felicia's defenses crumbled. Despite the voice in her head screaming at her to walk away, she couldn't deny the magnetic pull between them. That night marked the beginning of their secret affair. Their relationship quickly escalated. They would steal moments during school hours. She would stay in his office after meetings or exchanging glances during staff briefings. Later one evening, when the school was almost empty, Michael invited Felicia to his office under the guise of discussing her lesson plans. As the door closed behind her, the professional facade disappeared. "You're beautiful," he whispered, his hands gently caressing her face. "Michael, someone could see us," Felicia said, her voice filled with both fear and excitement. "They've all gone home," he reassured her, his lips brushing against hers. Their intimacy became a regular occurrence. They found risky locations within the school classrooms, storage rooms, and even the staff toilet. Each encounter was more daring than the last, fueling the spirit of their forbidden relationship. One Friday afternoon, after a particularly passionate intimacy in an empty classroom, Michael and Felicia forgot to dispose of the evidence-used condom. In their haste to leave before anyone noticed, they left it under one of the desks. The following Monday, during a routine classroom inspection, Mrs. Chioma, one of the senior teachers, stumbled upon the condom. Shocked and disgusted, she immediately reported it to the Teachers Association chairman, Mr. Bassi. By noon, a meeting was called, and all teachers were summoned to the staff room. "This is unacceptable," Mr. Bassi thundered, holding up the condom in a sealed plastic bag. "Whoever is responsible for this disgraceful act should own up now." The room fell silent. Teachers exchanged nervous looks, but no one spoke up. Felicia sat anxiously in her chair, her heart racing. Michael, seated across the room, maintained a calm face, though his mind was racing for a solution. "This kind of behavior tarnishes the reputation of our school," Mrs. Chioma added, her voice stern. "We will not tolerate such immorality." After a tense hour of questioning and accusations, no one confessed, and the matter was temporarily shelved. However, the incident left a cloud of suspicion hanging over the staff. Michael and Felicia knew they had narrowly escaped exposure, but the close call only added to the thrill of their affair. They became more cautious, avoiding the school during their secret meetings and opting for discreet locations outside campus. "Felicia," Michael said one evening as they sat in his car parked at a quiet spot in Grag Kaja, "we need to be more careful. I can't afford for anyone to find out." Felicia nodded, her emotions conflicted. Part of her felt trapped, knowing the risk she was taking, but another part of her was addicted to the passion they shared. Unknown to them, their actions were setting the stage for a scandal that would shake the very foundation of Glory Heights Secondary School. It had been weeks since the condom incident, and though the staff had moved on, Felicia found herself more restless than ever. She had been feeling unusually tired, and she started to have nausea that she couldn't ignore. At first, she dismissed it as stress from work, but when her symptoms persisted, she decided to visit a nearby pharmacy in Ikeja. The pharmacist handed her a pregnancy test kit with a knowing look. "Just follow the instructions. It's easy to use," he said. Back home, Felicia's hands trembled as she opened the kit. Within minutes, the result appeared. 2 bold lines. She was pregnant. Her mind began to race. Thoughts of her boyfriend, David, flashed through her mind. They had intercourse recently, but she knew deep down the baby wasn't his. The timing pointed squarely to Michael. The next day, Felicia stayed back after school, waiting until the halls were empty before walking into Michael's office. He was seated at his desk, reviewing some documents, but the moment he saw her face, he knew something was wrong. "Felicia, what's the matter?" he asked, with concern all over his face. She hesitated, struggling to find the right words. "Michael, I'm pregnant." The room fell silent. Michael leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. Then, after a long pause, he sighed. "Are you sure it's mine?" Felicia said with anger. "Of course it's yours." Michael, panicking, said okay. "Listen," he said finally, his tone firm. "You can't keep it. It'll ruin both of us." Felicia's heart sank. She had anticipated his reaction, but hearing it still felt like a slap in the face. "You're asking me to abort my child," she whispered. Michael stood up and walked around his desk, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Felicia, think about this logically. If my wife finds out, if the school finds out, it'll destroy everything. For both of us." Felicia pulled away, tears welling up in her eyes. "I'm not doing it, Michael. I won't." For days, Michael tried to convince Felicia to terminate the pregnancy, but she remained adamant. Realizing he couldn't force her, he came up with another plan. "Felicia," he said during one of their secret meetings, "if you won't have an abortion, we need to find a way to cover this up. David. He's the answer." Felicia frowned. "David? What are you talking about?" "Convince him the baby is his," Michael explained. "He'll believe you. You've been together for years, and as far as he knows, you're faithful." Felicia was horrified at the suggestion, but the more she thought about it, the more it seemed like her only option. Michael assured her he would support her through the process, but the lie would have to be hers to tell. That evening, Felicia invited David to her apartment. She prepared his favorite meal, jollof rice with fried chicken, and did her best to appear calm. As they ate, she brought up the topic. "David," she began hesitantly, "there's something I need to tell you." He looked up, concern flashing in his eyes. "What is it, babe?" Felicia took a deep breath. "I'm pregnant." David froze, his spoon hovering midair. "You're pregnant," he repeated, his voice a mix of surprise and confusion. "Yes," she said, forcing a smile. "I know we weren't exactly planning for this, but it happened." For a moment, David said nothing. Then, to her surprise, he smiled. Wow. I wasn't expecting this, but I'm happy. I love you, Felicia. And if this is happening, then we'll figure it out together." Felicia felt guilty as she watched his face light up with joy. But she pushed it aside, telling herself it was for the best. When Felicia informed Michael that David had accepted the pregnancy, he visibly relaxed. "Good," he said. "This is the best outcome for everyone." But while Michael acted relieved, the incident seemed to build some more confidence in him. He felt untouchable, as though he could escape any consequence with the right plan. His growing sense of invincibility led him to set his sights on other teachers. Michael began paying closer attention to Mrs. Chioma, a married teacher in her early 30s who often stayed late to finish her lesson plans. Chioma was known for her no-nonsense attitude, but Michael saw her reserved attitude as a challenge. During a staff meeting, he made a point of complimenting her work. "Mrs. Chioma, your student's performance in mathematics has been outstanding. You're truly an asset to this school." Chioma smiled politely. "Thank you, sir." Michael's approach was little at first, offering to help her with administrative tasks, engaging her in casual conversations, and finding excuses to be around her. It wasn't long before Chioma began to sense his intentions, but she wasn't sure how to confront him without putting her job at risk. Michael's newfound confidence made him reckless. He began juggling his ongoing affair with Felicia while secretly pursuing other teachers. His charm and position of authority gave him an advantage, and he used it to manipulate and control those around him. Meanwhile, Felicia struggled to maintain the relationship with David. The guilt weighed heavily on her, but she held on to the hope that everything would work out in the end. Unaware, Michael's actions were setting off a chain of events that would soon go out of control, threatening to expose the web of lies he had so carefully constructed. Mrs. Chioma Ibe was a well-respected mathematics teacher in her early 30s. Married to an engineer with 2 young children, Chioma prided herself on maintaining a balance between her professional and personal life. She was diligent and efficient, and had no time for unnecessary drama. But Michael saw something else in her weakness. Michael's approach to Chioma was calculated. He started by praising her teaching methods during meetings, giving her more administrative responsibilities, and singling her out for commendation at staff events. Initially, Chioma felt flattered but remained cautious, dismissing his gestures as professional appreciation. Things changed one evening when Michael asked Chioma to stay back after school to help him draft a proposal for a government education grant. "You're the best at this sort of thing," he said, smiling warmly. "I couldn't think of anyone else more qualified." Reluctantly, Chioma agreed. As they worked in his office, Michael steered the conversation toward her personal life. "You work so hard, Keoma," he said, his tone soft. "Balancing teaching, your kids and your husband, I don't know how you do it." Keoma smiled weakly. "It's not easy, but I manage." Michael leaned closer, his voice dropping. "You deserve to be appreciated more. You're an incredible woman." The comment caught her off guard, but she brushed it aside, focusing on the task at hand. Over the following weeks, Michael's comments became more personal and his behavior more suspecting. One evening, Michael made his move. He cornered Keoma in the staff room, his tone shifting from friendly to authoritative. "Keoma," he said, "you know how much I value you, but I also know the struggles you're facing. Your contract renewal is coming up, isn't it?" Keoma froze. Her heart raced as she realized the implication behind his words. Michael used her fear of job insecurity to manipulate her into a physical relationship. Months later, after she had been seeing Michael in secret, having intimate intercourse, and doing all manner of things, Keoma discovered she was pregnant. When she informed Michael, he was furious. "You have to get rid of it," he snapped. "Do you want to ruin your marriage? Your career?" Desperate and scared, Keoma reluctantly agreed to an abortion. The experience left her emotionally shattered, and she began withdrawing from her colleagues and family. Eventually, she had to leave the school as she wasn't able to focus on her job anymore after the whole incident. Mikhail, feeling he is untouchable, moved to the next unnoticing prey. Miss Aisha Abdullahi, a reserved and ambitious teacher in her late 20s, was new to Glory Heights. Having transferred from a rural school in Kano, Aisha was determined to excel in her career and prove herself in the competitive Lagos education system. She admired Michael's leadership, unaware of his darker side. Michael's strategy with Aisha was different. He played the mentor, offering guidance and support. He frequently invited her to his office under the guise of professional development discussions. "You have great potential, Aisha," he told her during one such meeting. "With the right mentorship, you could become one of the best teachers in Lagos." Aisha was flattered and eager to learn. But Michael's intentions became clear when he started making inappropriate comments about her appearance and touching her shoulder during conversations. One evening, Michael invited Aisha to his office to discuss a promotion opportunity. She hesitated but agreed, believing it was a genuine career discussion. Once there, Michael closed the door and locked it. "You're an exceptional teacher, Aisha," he began, his tone unnervingly intimate. "But you're also a beautiful woman." Aisha froze as he moved closer, his intentions unmistakable. She tried to resist, but Michael used his position of authority to intimidate her. Feeling powerless, she gave in to his demands and they got intimate. Their encounters continued in secret, but Aisha's guilt and shame grew unbearable. When she discovered she was pregnant, she confronted Michael, hoping for support. Instead, Michael turned cold. "You're going to get rid of it," he said flatly. "And don't think about telling anyone. Remember, I have everything recorded." Aisha's blood ran cold as Michael revealed that he had been secretly recording their encounters. Terrified of the potential scandal, she complied with his demands. The experience left her emotionally scarred, and she became a shadow of herself, losing the vibrant energy that had once been her quality. Mikhail didn't stop there. He was already having his eyes set on the next teacher he feels is beautiful. Miss Ngozi Okafor was the polar opposite of Aisha. Outspoken, confident, and fiercely independent, she was not one to be intimidated by authority. She had been teaching at Glory Heights for 5 years and had built a reputation as a no-nonsense educator who stood her ground. Michael saw Ngozi as a challenge. He admired her strength but also saw it as something to conquer. His attempts to charm her were met with sharp rebukes. "I'm here to teach, Mr. Okonkwo," she told him bluntly one day. "If you have anything else in mind, you're wasting your time." But Michael wouldn't give up. Over time, he began to undermine her professionally. assigning her extra tasks, criticizing her in meetings, and creating a hostile work environment. Ngozi's resistance began to fade under the pressure. One evening, after an intense confrontation in his office, Michael used her exhaustion and weakness to his advantage. He crossed the line, and despite her initial resistance, she felt powerless to fight back. This went on for 3 months. Mikhail would call her to his office and forcefully have intercourse with her. He would record the event and would use it as a tool to threaten her any time she didn't want to allow him to get intimate with her. This went on for months, and later, Ngozi discovered she was pregnant. She confronted Michael, determined to hold him accountable. But Michael, the biggest manipulator, convinced her to terminate the pregnancy, promising to promote her in return. The abortion did not go as planned. Ngozi suffered complications that landed her in the hospital for 6 months. During this time, her colleagues began to suspect that something was amiss, but Ngozi refused to speak about what had happened. Each of these women bore the weight of their experiences differently. Chioma became a shadow of her former self, struggling to maintain her marriage and career. Aisha lost her confidence and drive, retreating into isolation. Ngozi, once a pillar of strength, returned to work a changed person, her fiery spirit killed by the trauma she endured. For Michael, however, these affairs only fed his ego. He saw himself as untouchable, believing that his charm and cunning actions would shield him from any consequences. But the cracks in his lifestyle were beginning to show, and it was only a matter of time before his actions caught up with him. The staff room at Glory Heights Secondary School buzzed with excitement as news of a new teacher spread. Miss Veronica Adewale, the daughter of the Minister of Education, had been assigned to the school as part of her mandatory teaching service before pursuing a career in educational administration. Veronica's arrival was met with curiosity. Everyone wanted to meet the young woman whose family name carried a heavy weight. On her first day, Veronica walked into the school with the kind of confidence that only came from being raised in a rich home. She was very beautiful, dark-skinned, with high cheekbones, piercing eyes, and an aura that demanded attention. Her impeccable sense of style made her stand out even in the simple teacher's uniform. Veronica wasn't just a pretty face, she was ambitious, intelligent, and outspoken. She had a reputation for challenging authority and speaking her mind, which made her both admired and envied by her peers. Michael first met Veronica during her introductory meeting with the staff. As she stood to address the room, thanking everyone for the warm welcome, Michael couldn't help but notice her poise and eloquence. "Miss Adewale," he said, smiling warmly, "it's an honor to have you join us. Your father must be very proud." "Thank you, sir," Veronica replied, her tone polite but distant. She was used to people mentioning her father and often brushed it off. She had come to Glory Heights to prove herself, not to ride on her family's coattails. Michael, however, was attracted to her. Veronica was unlike any of the other teachers he had encountered. Her confidence and independence presented a challenge, and he couldn't resist the urge to get closer to her. At first, Michael's interactions with Veronica were strictly professional. He praised her innovative teaching methods and often invited her to join him in discussions about school improvement strategies. Veronica appreciated his openness and willingness to listen, and she began to respect him as a leader. "You have great ideas, Miss Adewale," Michael said one afternoon during a meeting. "With your passion and drive, you're going to make a significant impact here." "Thank you, sir," Veronica replied, a genuine smile lighting up her face. "It's refreshing to work with someone who values innovation." Michael nodded, masking the growing attraction he felt. Unlike his previous conquests, Veronica wasn't easily swayed by charm or flattery. She was sharp, observant, and cautious, a combination that made her more appealing to him. Michael's intentions became clear during a school outing to celebrate World Teachers' Day. As the staff gathered at a private venue in Ikeja, Michael ensured that Veronica sat next to him during dinner. Throughout the evening, he paid her compliments that were far from professional. "You're different from the others," he said, his voice low enough for only her to hear. "There's something about you, Veronica. You're extraordinary." Veronica shifted uncomfortably in her seat. "Thank you, sir. I appreciate that," she said, trying to keep her tone neutral. Michael smiled, sensing her unease. He knew he had to tread carefully, but he also knew he wouldn't give up. Despite her initial reservations, Veronica found herself drawn to Michael. His confidence and charm were hard to ignore, and he had a way of making her feel special. "I see so much of myself in you," he told her one evening as they sat in his office. "You're ambitious, driven, and unafraid to challenge the status quo. I admire that." Veronica smiled, her defenses beginning to waver. For all her strength and independence, she longed for someone who understood her. Michael seemed to be that person. Their relationship turned romantic one evening after a late-night meeting. Veronica had stayed back to finalize a report, and Michael offered to give her a ride home. As they sat in his car outside her apartment, the tension between them reached its breaking point. "Veronica," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "I can't pretend anymore. I'm drawn to you." She hesitated, her mind racing. But before she could respond, Michael leaned in and kissed her. It was a moment of weakness that would mark the beginning of a passionate but dangerous affair. Michael and Veronica's relationship quickly became intense. They found ways to steal moments together during school hours, often sneaking into his office or meeting in secluded corners of the campus. But their desire for one another soon spilled beyond the school grounds. They began meeting at upscale hotels in Ikija, where they could be together without fear of being caught. Michael spared no expense, booking private suites and showering Veronica with gifts to keep her happy. "You deserve the best," he told her one evening as they shared a bottle of wine in a 4-star hotel room, "and I'll give it to you." For Veronica, the affair was thrilling and liberating. But deep down, she knew it was a dangerous game. Michael was a married man, and she was risking her reputation and career for a relationship that could never be public. Meanwhile, rumors about Michael's behavior were beginning to circulate among the staff. Though no one had concrete evidence, the whispers were growing louder, and it was only a matter of time before their secret relationship came to light. The affair between Michael Okonkwo and Veronica Adewale had become increasingly reckless. They believed they were untouchable, often meeting in hotels and even risking intimate moments on school premises. What Michael and Veronica didn't know was that Veronica's father, Honorable Adewale, the Minister of Education, had begun to hear whispers of his daughter's inappropriate closeness with the principal. The rumors reached him through a trusted aide who was a parent at Glory Heights Secondary School. Determined to get to the bottom of it, he decided to investigate quietly. One afternoon, Honorable Adewale visited the school unannounced, claiming he was there to inspect its facilities. During his inspection, Adewale noticed that Veronica wasn't in her assigned classroom. Suspicious, he asked a staff member to help him locate her. After a brief search, the minister found the door to Michael's office slightly ajar. What he saw inside made his blood boil. Michael and Veronica locked in a very tight intimacy. "Veronica," Adewale shouted, his voice echoing through the hallway. Veronica froze, her face draining of color. Michael quickly stepped back, fumbling for words, but there was no escaping the situation. Honorable Adewale's eyes burned with rage as he pointed an accusing finger at Michael. "You will regret this," he said coldly before storming out with Veronica in tow.